If you want them to know it, tell them. If you want them to love it, sing it.
Reed Jones was a farmer just north of Atlanta. His wife laid sick in bed. Just picture it, can't you? A baby in her womb, a storm raging outside. The lightning locked them in. The storm poured from the skies. Hi, I'm Joshua David Ling, and I wrote that poem, The Prophecy, back around 2013 in an attempt to kickstart a story I'd been throwing around in a comic book form for a while. Recently, my friends in the brood of writers and I have been hard at work creating something that will revolutionize that story, and hopefully many others. My good friend Jesse Marsalis and I recently sat down to talk about it, and attempt to explain it all to you, dear listener. Here's an edited summary of that conversation.
This is enchanting, ancient words alive again. This is the calling, rising up, carried on the wind. Come you bards and poets, the dawn is breaking through. The storm retreats and the sky turns blue. From the Georgia hills to the end of every age, these are enchanting epics. Turn the page.
Specifically, and this is kind of just trying to figure out how do you make epic poetry in a cinematic, theatric sense, making it very musical, whatnot. But before we get to all of the process of making this, first, enchanting epics. What are you enchanting? What's epic? What is it?
Enchanting refers to in song something. Chant is a old word for song. We get that with words like cantor, and cantus in Latin, and other words of that sort. And to enchant something is to make it into song. And so that's the old meaning of the word. Obviously, there's the magical side of it too, and we're fun with that. That's cool. Like that, we're fine with that. We're fun with it. Whatever.
I was gonna say it's interesting that there's a connection between music and magic, because music is very powerful and a very magical thing.
Yep.
It can you can tell the emotion that a song is trying to convey without having somebody explain it to you.
Yep. With it, regardless of language.
That's very.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Very enchanting.
Yes.
What is the now? Why are we doing enchanting epics? Which story are we following?
So I've written a lot of stories, as you know, and a lot of people who followed me have known. Guardians of Atlanta is one of my go-tos that I really kind of started with and have fleshed out the most. It is a story of 4 superheroes in the Atlanta area, roughly around the early 2010s period. It's not specific in that regard, but it is a story that I wrote because I wanted to communicate, in many ways, the beauty and experience that I have seen in Georgia, but also the growing evil, and how I can see it being confronted in a, superhero setting, because it's a superhero story. And also that's just fun. Superhero epic poetry is fun. And so I wanted to do something fun because I'm a good gardener.
I don't know enough poetry about superheroes. I mean, at least not off the top of my head. I haven't exactly gone looking. It's more like it found me, though, specifically in Guardians of Atlanta, especially after having you explain it and then read a few of the poems pretty early on. So, portraying the beauty that you see in Georgia, and portraying the growing evil. How long have you seen that? When did you realize I need to make a poetry? I'm sure there's other reasons too, but when did you realize I need to make poetry about this? When did this process start?
So the poetry wasn't there at first for probably 10 years. I was just writing a story of superheroes in Atlanta, and not all of them were originally in Atlanta. 2 of them were, but it was a superhero story. And I was trying, 15 years old, found a guy who could draw some comics, kind of thing. And I had this idea of, I was a big fan of Teen Titans, the original, not the Teen Titans Go, the Teen Titans 2003 cartoon. And I really wanted to do a story where they were a family like that, a family of young adults that were a found family sort of thing, but like more peers that really, galvanized together, had tragic backstories and all the fun stuff that comes with writing stories. The early versions of some of the characters were very different, but there were a lot of things that stayed the same too. And like I said, I just kind of started with that and kind of built out things with the story. The one we're going to be mainly talking about, Cyrus Jones, probably changed the most. But the others, the others fell into place over time too. So
Specifically, Cyrus Jones. Her story changes. Who is Cyrus Jones?
when she started, very, very briefly, she was much more of a comedic character. She actually started in Kansas. I was doing kind of a Wizard of Oz thing with the whole Kansas deal. And then I started with the Guardians thinking I want to create a team also that works well together powers wise. And so one of the powers that I wanted was storm powers. And I thought to myself, what is a storm powered superhero that I have not seen before? Because most storm powered superheroes are very elemental. They're very like godlike, in some way, shape, or form. And I wanted someone who was the opposite of that in a lot of ways. Really, a lot of songs are written about rain. It's kind of a mundane thing to write a song about rain. And yet everyone immediately connects with songs that are written about rain. It's kind of inexplicable.
Yeah. It's like, oh, it's such a cliche singing about rain. And the moment somebody does it, just...
Right. I want to know, have you ever seen the rain? All that kind of stuff. And it just puts people in a mood, right? And I kind of delved into that a little bit. And country music in particular has a very, very big tradition, whether they know it or not. I know some people do, between rain and providence, because of the agrarian culture that is still in small towns. That started me on a trail of, okay, well, what if she can't always use her powers? It's something that she has to feel come on her. It's something that is a synchronicity between her and the environment around her. And she has to trust God for the rain. And things really, really, really started to come together. So Cyrus Jones is, she grew up literally on a plot of land that is 2 minutes by car from where I grew up. With this, I was playing around with the Cyrus Jones story, and I thought about a scene that clinched it for me. I thought of her coming home from UGA in Athens, which is an hour and a half, 2 hours east of Alpharetta. It's like the main place with UGA, the University of Georgia, the Bulldogs, college. That's definitely where Cyrus would go, just on the character building I was doing for her. And I imagined her coming home through all the traffic. Atlanta has legendary traffic. Through all the cones, through all the concrete, seeing places that she used to love being torn down, and just being so ticked off. But when she finally gets home and steps through that door, she's greeted by her mom and dad, and everything's okay again. Even though things are going crazy out there, this place is sacred. And that's where the threat comes in, which we'll get to. But this is just the first chapter we're working on. But that was the thing that started it. And I was so ticked off about the grass that I felt like I had to write a version in rap. I needed to rap about this. And I have a rap album of Cyrus Jones that I will link somewhere in this episode that's still on YouTube. And some of it holds up. Not all of it, but some of it holds up because the poetry is good. And most of the poetry is in there. Most of the poetry is still in there. And so it was an experiment. and I found that I loved the poetry. Didn't like a lot of the stuff that came along with it. I can rap. I can, but it's not many people's cup of tea, you know, especially people that I'm with, and I don't give off anything urban. So it doesn't really fit.
The whole story is literally like, it's the opposite of inner city.
Well, that's part of the reason. Well, that's part of the reason that the little bit of the very tiny amount of rap that we are actually going to have and do on the 5th track of this album we're working on, this book, is going to have some rap because it's the antithesis. So there is a little bits and hints of the urbanization that is going to come into what we're doing, but that's because it's the antithesis. So we'll be getting to that eventually, but continue with what you were going to say.
Yes, eventually. So the process of writing Cyrus Jones and her story, that's like from the author's perspective. But from the audience, from the person who's just experiencing the story for the first time, that's in episode 1.
Yes.
Or chapter 1. Yeah. The prophecy.
Yes.
What was the process of that like? What were the early versions of the prophecy like? Were they all rap or
No, the first one was rap. I actually did it to it was a track that sampled the guitar from Johnny Cash's cover of Hurt, the 9 Inch Nails song. And it created a very interesting, like, mysterious atmosphere that I'm still a big fan of. It doesn't fit what we're doing now, but it definitely felt like, gather round, this is a mysterious tale, right? Kind of a thing. And so I'm fond of the way that one turned out. It wasn't the full poetry as it is now. There's a lot of things I've added and changed. Even one for this version that we just created that they'll hear at the end of the episode. We had a part that wasn't working and I fixed it. So very early on, I wanted my 4 characters, and I won't go into all of them. I wanted my 4 characters to have very specific backgrounds that I encountered in real life in living in and around Alpharetta. The first one is your typical Southern Baptist native who's been there forever. And I didn't just want to make that like her character. I wanted her story to reflect the ethos, I guess you would call it, of Southern Baptist Alpharetta native Georgian. And I thought, okay, so how's she going to find out about her powers? Her powers are already kind of tied to God. That fits within the whole, like, I have to pray, I have to trust God. Like, that fits within the Southern Baptist ethos. So I'm like, okay, how does this come about? The obvious answer then was she's told about it, or her parents are told about it, actually, before she's born by an angel. And so this is all very, you know, obviously there's a million people who would say, oh, we don't have prophecies anymore. I'm actually mostly with you. As far as that goes, we get sermons, not prophecies. But the point being that this,
I feel like I've heard this before. An angel showing up to say that the child's going to have special powers.
I know, right? And so
tale as old as churches.
Tale as old as time, Mrs. Potts. Anyway, so the point being that I wanted to do this more so as like, there's this high strangeness thing in greater Appalachia, which Alpharetta is a part of. I don't care what anyone says. Yes, we're the foothills. We're like 10 to 15 minutes from where the Blue Ridges start, though. So like, this is still Appalachian culture, especially when we were in the boonies. But the point being that, there's this high strangeness thing, tall tales. And can you imagine this guy who's a nominal farmer, has some horses, has some chickens, you know, just basically takes care of his family by living off the land more than anything. Occasionally goes and sells some stuff, kind of a handyman around town, blue collar guy. He's got a story. Did y'all ever hear that story? Right? Like, that's so Georgian, it's not even funny. That's so North Georgia, right? That the blue collar guy who you'd never think has a high strangeness story if you ask him and convince him that you're not trying to lynch him for heretical beliefs, he'll tell you one crazy story that you can't help but believe because he'd never make something like that up. That is so just North Georgia, right?
Right.
And so that was sort of the idea around it overall. And then I had to create the angel, and I did not want it to be generic angel number 5. I did not want it to be Gabriel clone. Is it not Gabriel, right? Like that's so boring. And so we created Ezekiel. Ezekiel is, I wanted him to be an embodiment of the spirit of the old South. So the Native American Cherokee, particularly the ones who believed in the Great Spirit who sent his son down from the sun to save us from our sin. That's a real thing, people. Obviously, there are Native Americans in Georgia still. There are the Eastern Band Cherokee that still live here and lived throughout, the Trail of Tears in the hills and whatever else. But like, I wanted the angel to feel like a big, scary Native American guy, and have a little bit of outlaw cowboy mixed in, and so he's very intimidating. And so that's kind of the setting for what we're doing with the prophecy. Ezekiel comes in a moment of crisis, and he tells Reed Jones and Emily that everything will be all right, but there will be darkness before the dawn.
Yeah, the darkness is always the hardest to pierce right before the sun rises.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
And he's there to warn them of that.
Yes.
But things are gonna get better. So you have Ezekiel, the angel who's giving the prophecy, and he's giving it to the father, Reed Jones.
Yes.
But why is Reed Jones in this moment more receptive to hearing what Ezekiel is saying? He's receptive to hearing this big, scary Native American guy. One is obvious he's an angel, and two, he's desperate.
Yes.
Right. Was that desperation present in the early versions?
Yes, but it was muted by sort of this dreamlike state that I was creating, both in the poetry and in the rap, because I wanted it to feel like you're hearing the tale rather than it's happening in front of you. And that was a choice that I made early on to give more stylistic variety to the album more than anything. And so in regard to that, I changed it because it's such, I realized through the poetry itself without any performance, what a gut-wrenching feeling it can be. Reed's wife Emily is sick with she's pregnant with Cyrus. There's a big crazy lightning storm, all of course foreshadowing, and lending to the prophecy of Cyrus having storm powers. Also, I thought it was kind of fun and silly to do. It was a dark and stormy night.
Yeah,
why not?
Yeah.
Right.
So it felt more like a dreamy and uncertain at the beginning, which you were like, but now it's really just not clear. Is that what I'm getting?
No, it wasn't that it wasn't clear. It was past tense, and I felt like it was
past tense. Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, it was like hearing it. It was the feeling like someone wrote this story down and was giving it to you as not a lullaby, but a like, we're sitting in a warm room by the fireplace. There's a dark storm going on right now, and I'm going to tell you this story, right? And we're going to just sit and be solemn. The way that it shifted was I really wanted you to feel the desperation of Reed in the moment. And I wanted Ezekiel, I mean, he's such a cool visual, even just through the way I describe him in the poetry, that I want you to feel the intimidation of him. And so, yeah, he comes, he delivers the prophecy, the storm calms, and Emily starts feeling better. And a few weeks after that, they give birth to Cyrus. And that is the full overall idea of the poem. And it sets up everything that is to come.
And you want to convey that well with the audience. And you've learned all these things from previous versions. Like the rap, it just kind of didn't work in the same way. And making it like it's a campfire story, it feels too
past tense. Yeah.
So you're trying to find out a better way to tell it. And I really think the at least the newest version that you gave, I don't know if it's the very final one yet, but
I did tweak the two like EQ things that you and Alex did, but other than that, yeah, it's final.
it's wonderful, right? So it seems like one of the things you had learned from the process over the years of trying to tell this story is that you've been one guy doing this. And it's not like it hasn't caught any wind. It just didn't really take off. But something changed. Why is it that now you're actually making this into a thing?
Yeah.
How is it that you're making Guardians of Atlanta into an actual thing? And what is the goal of Enchanting Epics?
One of the biggest things that has changed is simply the fact that God in his providence gave me the Brood over a period of 10 years or so, but like the growth of the Brood during the pandemic and into 2024 pretty much has been great. We've tapered off. It's something that I want to get back to, like, you know, recruiting folks and finding the right folks, but we want to grow in encouraging other people, other artists, other craftsmen, other folk who are trying to do the same sorts of Lewisian Tolkienite things. And that's why we have the Broodcast and the Inklings. And so I have friends that are interested in doing these things with me now, and are willing to spend and invest the time. And I've gotten over my pride in asking over the course of that time. And then the second thing that has changed is I always said Ezekiel either needed to have a bajillion effects on his voice. He needed to sound ethereal. He is actually AI in this, the thing that you're about to hear, everybody. He is AI, but he's the only AI character in this, Jesse voices Reed Jones. I am the narrator. Casey has a very bit part doing groan noises. I actually didn't get groan noises from you. I actually just found some and they ended up working out. So I need to remember to do that in the future, get you to do some, and get other people who are recording. But we have 3 of our 4 main characters, what's the term? Cast. And we have 3 more, 1 for the main group, and then 2 that are major players on the good guys side to cast for, as well as various parts here and there. So if you're interested, if you're part of if you've listened for a long time and you've never joined the Brood, or you're part of the Brood and want to join in, talk to me. We'll figure it out. And if you want to do art for this, if you want to do any other things, we want to do animatics, we want to do animation, we want to do fan art, you know, in a similar way to Epic, and I'll plug your stuff. I'll put it out there. I'll say, hey, look at this great stuff they did. And I feel like if we can come together around this project and plod along, I'm going to be able to help y'all with some of your projects, and we're going to be able to, you know, make all ships rise, so to speak.
I'm not sure if this one should even go after this one, or if it should go before that last section that you just went over. But there's the actual. I'm trying to think how to. What is the actual process of making these poems step by step? The writing you've had done for a while, although sometimes you might change things. I'm talking about like literally going back and forth with the music, or with each iteration, trying to figure out which one works.
I really talked with you and Alex a lot on this, and we discovered something that was far better than I think any of us really believed could be. except Alex. It was really Alex's idea. We essentially take each poem and we find the heart of the poem. This is the process. I've talked more in depth with Alex on this, but you find the heart of the poem and you decide if that heart should be sung. The way that we describe that is, I forget who it was. Was it Howard Ashman or someone like that said that basically when you can no longer when you've got this joy or feeling welling up inside you, such emotion that you have to start singing, and then beyond singing, if you I'm butchering it, but if you're singing and it gets even bigger beyond that, you have to dance. And so we kind of took that idea and we said, what's the emotional heart of this story where someone might sing? And we put that spot under a microscope and we say, should this be sung? That's really the first step. Then we can look at the rest of the song and say, okay, should the rest of the song be sung? Some of them will be yes. I can think of a few immediately that will be the answer. Some of them, no. Some of them won't have any, I think. But the idea is we're creating a hybrid. Part of this is fully scored audio drama. I always want there to be music of some sort. And so it gives you breaks to appreciate the more mechanical poetry for what it is and the turns of phrase and those sorts of things. And then you will eventually spill back into the leitmotifs and the melodies. And we're going to be going whole hog on leitmotifs, you better believe it. And we'll have full sound effects, full score, full audio cast. And I will be narrating and doing my bard thing as the narrator of these tales and the writer. So we have William Avery, and any of these could change, but William Avery cast. We have Cyrus Jones cast. And we have America Drew cast. And so those three of our four, the other of the main group being Bobby Carter, that he's not cast yet. He's sort of a magician character. And then our two catalyst characters, Marlynn Xanadu and Amy, definitely still need to be cast. So we'll see who they end up being. So yeah.
So speaking of cast, what would you say to the naysayers who claim, oh, you're using 100% AI to make everything for you and not doing anything?
It's so funny. This is something that I could do all by myself, but I haven't been able to sell it like, on a bigger scale for how long now? 21 years, like we said, because it is a big ask. Epic poetry is something way different. It's so weird. And no matter how you do it, everyone's going to be like, what is this? They hear it and they go like, I love this. I know this. It's familiar, but what is it? I need other people to help me be missionaries for the cause of epic poetry. That's really what it comes down to. And that's not something AI can do. AI can give you all the logical reasons that humans appreciate epic poetry, but it cannot fundamentally give you real arguments that will convince people to actually buy into a product. We can plod through these. All of these poems are like 3 to 5 minutes long. That's part of the beauty of this entire system, is if we treat each of these individual things as one production, which not all of these are going to take the 6 months this has taken, because we're creating a whole new podcast, right? We're creating a whole new set of rules for what we're doing. We really had to nail down stuff. But the next one, the headband, is going to be a lot easier. By the way, my daughter Hazel will be playing young Cyrus Jones, so that'll be fun.
With all the backstory going back 21 years about when you started this project in the first place, even before I was born, right? going through rap doesn't quite work, but I want it to be poetry, but I don't want it to be completely music. To, okay, we think we've got something working here. We're using all these tools. We've gotten a bunch of people's help. We've got a production going on. Now, finally, what does the prophecy sound like?
If you want them to know it, tell them. If you want them to love it, sing it.
Reed Jones was a farmer just north of Atlanta. His wife laid sick in bed. Just picture it, can't you? A baby in her womb, a storm raging outside. The lightning locked them in. The storm poured from the skies. The wind and rain battered their tiny Georgia town. The hails and gales tore power lines down. The back window had been knocked out by flying debris, and there was no help that either of them could see. Emily Reed's wife, her complexion was shoddy. Nausea, pain, and cold racked all of her body. She moaned and cried and prayed that it was just the flu, but Reed Jones had no clue what to do. He set a candle on the nightstand and tucked in his ailing wife and slammed his knees down to the floor to beg God for her life.
Please, Lord. Please, God. Save my wife and child.
The wind started blowing, and there came something wild. The wind had calmed, the rain had stopped, but what came was a storm indeed. Like crinkled at the edges of the walls, golden as ripening wheat. And fading in as the room became light was a figure about 8 feet tall. His stature not only dwarfed the Joneses, but seemed to stretch their walls. He seemed like a Cherokee man, wild and free. Could he be cowboy clothes and long black goatee, spirit of the South? Reed stared at the strange messenger.
Wild and free. Could he be an angel from God to help me? There's nothing I can do.
Then the angel spoke this message, and the voice was deeper than the depths of Chattahoochee, and this is what he said.
Reed Jones, good and faithful sir, your wife will be saved from death's dark current. Your daughter as well, but she'll be born with power. All weather before her eyes will cower, and with God's help she will withstand great adversity. She will lose everything, but she will learn this homily. If Christ is with us, who can be against us? Your daughter, Reed Jones, will stand for justice.
And just like that, the angel was gone. Before Reed could say a word, he jumped back up to his precious wife. By love and worry he was spurred, but his wife lay there, asleep and warm. Her color now rosy red, and her breathing was as calm and relaxed as the baby that laid within her in that bed. Reed Jones cried with utter relief as the sky above turned red too, praising God Almighty in heaven, for there was nothing he could do. A few weeks after that, Emily birthed from brittle bones a daughter with brown hair, and they named her Cyrus Jones.